analytics that inform talent decision for a robust future. And please join me in welcoming Tovit Neiser, a business storyteller from Yellow Bricks, and Mei Kim, an executive director of global workforce analytics from the Estée Lauder companies.
I'm going to dump all my stuff here. I'll just put it here. All right, there's no Oscar music?
Hello? Is there a preferred side?
Oh, wow.
I'll sit here.
All right, you want to sit there?
Yeah, let's do something. It's very intimate.
Cool.
Good morning.
Hi, good morning, everyone.
Yeah, great to have you here. So I'm Tovit Neiser. As mentioned, I'm a business storyteller, and I work with companies and executives on building effective stories. And I'm delighted to have my friend here, Mei Kim from Estée Lauder, to speak about the future and how we can grasp and harness data. Please introduce yourself for those who don't know you yet, and we'll take it from there.
Of course. So I see a lot of familiar faces here. Hello, everyone. I'm so happy to be here. First time in the People Analytics Summit in Canada in person. I think I had participated some years back. So I've been in Estée Lauder for about 2 years, head of global workforce analytics. And before that, I was in a power management company. And I think that company also had a presence in Canada. It's Eaton. And then before that, it's with financial services. So I started my whole career journey as a consultant in HR systems. And one day, a mentor told me that someday, all this data you're collecting in HR systems is going to become valuable, and analytics is going to be the next big thing. So I raised my hand at the first opportunity to do reporting at the time. Maybe that's 15 years ago. And I've ever since then stood up capabilities in multiple companies, and now I'm here in Estée Lauder. And there's a lot of really, really great stuff happening, especially with the advent of AI being in our space. And I think it's really fun to be in this space right now. You're in the right spot.
I'll touch on a small story. First of all, in your signature in the email, there's a small cartoon. Maybe you can share about the story about how data and not preparing for the future can maybe damage or might help. So there are 3 Stone Age men, right? And they're pushing this cart. 2 of them in the front do not know the concept of wheels. They use these square-shaped
rocks.
Yeah, rocks. And then there's a guy on the back, on their end, saying, maybe these are the wheels. And they're like, no, we're too busy pushing for the future, right? So how does that tap into data? Like that, you said that you worked in consultancy, and you heard about this future thing that maybe data would help. What do you tell new employees in this field? How should they harness data?
Yeah, so let me just do a part 2 of that. So the 2 cave people, to be politically correct, are pushing the wagon, right, with square wheels. But they're not really saying they're too busy to look to work towards the future. They're too busy to take the round wheel to improve the way they work, right? So just a quick raise of hands. How many of you are too busy to think of new tools, to take a stop and jump out of the hamster wheel and figure this out? So I think we are in the same dilemma everywhere as reporting and analytics. People just want more reports, right? So who here says that they have too many reports in their space? And who here says all everyone needs is a list and a report and a roster or a dashboard? No? So if you give people a chance, they will just want reports because they don't know any better. So our job is really to offer ways of working better, influence others in how we can help them step off the hamster wheel and try to figure out what tools that they can use to either automate what they do today or even realize themselves that they don't need what they really want. Does that make sense to everyone? And it's hard, isn't it? It's really hard to influence our stakeholders.
Yeah.
So that's really the point of the cartoon. And I face that every day.
Yeah, I want to broaden the discussion. The title originally, you had something that you wished to change because you felt the data is something broader that we can tap into, not only specific incidents within HR. So maybe let's talk about that.
Yeah. So I'm going to pivot a little bit about how do you change the mindset of your stakeholders to just wanting I think what we have to deal with on a day-to-day and annual basis as a workforce analytics capability is dealing with the insights that relates to HR problems, right? Analysis around performance, or maybe your calibration or your compensation. But what if we thought outside of that? What if we went out to talk to the business and said, what makes us money? What are the problems that's coming against us in terms of making more money? Because at the end of the day, if you are for-profit, just a quick show of hands, how many are for-profit? Okay, 80%, maybe 60%. And nonprofit? Okay, 20%, right? So we all have a purpose as an organization, right? As a workforce analytics team, what I ask my team to do is to find out how we make money. Right. How many of you have asked your team members to really go to the business, to the front lines of the business? If you're retail, if you are selling fossil fuels, anybody here? I hope not. Or if you are selling renewables, right? So figure out who are the people who make you money, and have your team live the life, a day in the life of the people who make you money. And a wise HRBP once told me that before you, as an analytics professional, sit in your ivory tower and think of all this wonderful analytics to serve the world, try to go and lift the shoes of a retail person that's selling the products that is really helping you get your salary. Right? So there's a lot of humility in that, and I do encourage you, if you have your team, to actually figure out how your company makes money. And then work your way backwards from there. What are the problems that those people, the folks that are making us the money, the folks that are in the front lines, or the folks, even if you are in the money business, trading business, the investors or the financial advisors, what are the problems that are facing their engagement and their motivation and productivity, right? And it's not just the employee listening. It's about linking your productivity measures to what makes a person stay and what makes a person want to come to work every day. And the instincts there is you think, oh, it's just employee listening. It's not, right? Do you want me to give you an example?
Yeah, for sure.
I'm leading my own fireside chat. One example that I thought was really great was that we were doing predictive turnover analysis on retail employees. But we want to take it a step further, and the work that we're doing is that, what if we found out what were the drivers of turnover, right? Is it the lack of training? Which qualitatively, because my team has gone out and interviewed them, we found out that they are working too much overtime. They have to travel to different stores. They don't have enough product knowledge, right? That's the qualitative observations that we learned. From a driver perspective, the turnover drivers, statistically, we found out which products were having great retention issues within the first year. We found out that certain locations perhaps had high turnover. We found out that employees with multiple turnover of managers had was a driver turnover. Then we decided to figure out how to operationalize these drivers into the sales dashboard. So when you look at the top performers on your sales operations dashboards, which has nothing to do with workforce, you start to identify the people who are top performers. And you start to find the attributes of these people, whether they fit the drivers that we found. So that's an example of how you take the outcomes of your analysis and then bring it to operational mode with business metrics. Right? That's going directly into business impact.
I think, if I quote you correctly, you said that HR now has been transitioned from the past, which was transactional use of data, into more harvesting the insights, right?
Yeah.
And we talked about, let's say, I think in your company at Estée Lauder, and innovation and the innovation officer comes up and wants some data, actionable things. What can you give them? What are the insights that you can provide that are actionable?
Yeah. So I'm going to turn that question a little bit onto some of the struggles that we have. How many of you actually have really old HRMS systems? And how many of you have a hard time convincing a CHRO to replace them? So
what do you do?
HR systems are kind of like the last in line, right? Obviously, the investments all go to your business-facing operations, your online commerce, and trying to be competitive in the very fast-changing marketplace. So HR systems are always the last. But here are some of the things that you can try to influence is to, whatever the systems you have, in order to think about future insights, you got to be disciplined in the way you think about your transactional data now. So actions, reasons, every old dinosaur system has that. See if you can influence to actually change the way we think about actions and reasons for actions. Simple stuff like accessibility to data, security, permissions. We have traditionally been very conservative in the way we think about data. And, if I support this person, I can only see this group of people. That doesn't really advantage our HRBPs and HR leaders in supporting our business leaders. How are we going to think about mobility when the only people that we can see are our own groups, right? So there's ways that you can influence even with old systems, with current systems that you have. Don't be discouraged by the fact that we don't have any money, right? Think of the future in terms of having a mindset shift on your transactional data to drive insights. And you can do that even with whatever systems that you have. We're doing that today with a lot of the older systems that we have. All right?
If we're talking about tech and platforms, are there any tools that you want to share, how you use it, how you amplify that?
Yes.
Wait.
So one of the current challenges we face is who here has manual dashboards like Power BI and Tableau? They suck, don't they? Why do they suck? Can anyone tell me? Because it's like an iceberg. You know, it looks so pretty on the top. Have you all seen that visual of the iceberg? It's so beautiful at the top, but guess what? How much work goes into it and the bottom below the level of that water, right? So of the beautiful dashboards and visualizations you see, the leaders have no appreciation for the work that you do underneath the surface, right? The manual running around and picking up data. And guess what? The people who manually prepare this, sooner or later, they're going to run away from your team, which happened to me realistically, right? So what I need to do, and I see one model here. I'm most familiar with one model. I'm happy to get to know Hyro, Revilio Labs, and Rippling. I've not met you all before, so I would love to come to your stalls later, your booths. But companies like One Model, think about how you can transition some of this bottom of the iceberg to what becomes a sustainable model that you no longer have to rely and scramble if your talent leaves you, right? And then you can focus on the top layer of your iceberg, which is the consulting part, the insights part, right? So for those of you who are thinking about tools, Tableau and Power BI actually isn't the answer in the long term, right? It's transitioning and automating the operational aspects and focusing on the real value that you bring in workforce analytics. And that's the work that I expressed earlier, is reaching out to your HR business partners talking to the business leaders, understanding what really runs the business, and finding those problems and doing the analysis there. All right.
Are there any other risks? You just mentioned someone going away and taking all the data or the knowledge that was accumulated or
Yeah.
having everything stored in a person. What other risks are there when we're using technology, harvesting data?
The only risk is that you just have that first year that you have to turn CapEx into OpEx, right? So if you build a business case and say that, hey, I don't have to pay benefits, and I'm sorry, maybe I'm going to get rid of a lot of jobs here. But the reality is that all of us can transition from this manual work of building dashboards. The world is like, I am of the opinion that dashboards should not be a vocabulary in 5 years in HR analytics or workforce analytics. Dashboards should only be something that is in the car, and when the leaders see a symptom on the car, they bring it to the dealership. And the dealership is us, right? So hopefully, if you are in a place where you are getting, your main, how do you say, your main purpose or the work that you do is still dashboards, I suggest that build a roadmap to transition out of that and move into consulting and analytics, the real analytics that solves real problems. And that can be done because today, you don't only just have 1 or 2 vendors out there that are cloud-based, solution-based. You can build this in-house with IT, but we know that that doesn't work in the long run. I've done that multiple years. So, I think that my personal opinion is that find an operational platform that makes it work for you, and then you elevate your value to the analytics of our capability. All right?
Okay. Now, it feels like peer analytics, which you are referring to, makes these people in the crowd a very valuable asset in the company, because it's not just giving insights or just give me the data, I'll supply, but coming with your own thoughts and thinking of making a significant shift, moving the dial, show me the money you told me before when we talked. So can you please tap on that, on your role? Now that we have analytics, now we have so much data, how important and valuable these functions, the people here, their role is to the whole organization, not just the HR, not just the compensation, but also thinking to the future business.
Yeah,
role.
I mean, the very basic way to learn about this or to figure out how is to listen to your earnings reports, earnings updates. Just a quick show of hands. How many of you are in publicly listed companies? Okay, quite a few. So do you make your team, do you ask your team to listen to the earnings calls every quarter? You have to, because that's how you know how the strategy works, how the strategy for the business to continue to thrive and compete. What are the new products and services that they are selling and offering? I had a call, one of my mentees is a data scientist, and she works for a bank. And I said, have you ever listened to an earnings call? Do you know what products your company sells? What makes your company, your bank, different from the others? What is their competitive advantage? She couldn't answer. She said, I just get the work.
Yeah.
I just do it. And so this is the thing. If we want to translate our purpose or our value to something more than just making dashboards and operational reports, we got to think about what makes our company money, what makes them stay competitive, what is the purpose, and then go after that. And it's not that hard. It's not that hard. Figure out how we make money. It's easy. So just start listening to the earnings call and start thinking about how the people dimension of that drives your strategy. And then go after those problems. Right? Mine was a very simple one, the example, right? Retail employees, online is taking over. People don't want to go to work in malls anymore. How do we solve that problem? Right? Anyway, so that's how you do it. Like, simple. Just find out how your company makes money and follow the money.
This is very nice. How you empower everyone here to understand that they're not just here to supply data or wait for someone to ask them, but initiate and kind of dive into where This wasn't the first thing people come up with, thinking you are part of the business, but you
Yeah.
are. The data is super critical,
Yeah.
and you have all these keys to the success of the business.
Yeah.
So just think wider and not only to your cubicle and dashboard. That's nice.
Yeah, and then there are two things that I would love for everyone to take away from this
Yes.
conversation is I think to keep ourselves relevant and progress into the future with AI and with the ability to do so many of these things automatically, the work that we do with creating dashboards, operational reporting is all going to go away. Then how are you going to add value is when you have that thinking part of the thinking part of that pyramid, right? I was just in a conference last week. What was it? Carter, the CHRO for Patagonia. I can't remember the X. Neil Carter. I can't remember, but he had this little pyramid that had AI, information, AI, and everything, and how it's going to actually change the way we work. But on top of it is the human brain. So if you want to elevate your purpose and your value, you have to get away, you have to start evolving the capability from creating dashboards, operations, and trying to get to the top of that pyramid. Stay above the fray when it comes to AI and all that work, because your brains matter. The human aspects of this is the ability to connect the dots between the competitive nature of your company and the business that you're in to the people that make it happen, right? The AI cannot do that. So if you figure that piece out, you'll continue to stay relevant. But if you stay around in the operational part, the reporting part, the dashboard part, you need to get out of that.
That's great.
Right?
What about someone who's just started, new person in this industry, knows nothing, thinks he knows nothing? What does he have? What can you?
I would say skip coding altogether. I tell my daughter, don't bother with coding. Why go to coder school? Why learn programming? Skip it altogether. Do math. Andrew Ng. Everybody knows Andrew Ng? He's like the founder of, what is it, Coursera? I can't remember. But he talks about how, somebody asked him, if there was a student or someone who is starting out, what should they do to get ready for the future? Just do math, right? Be really, really good at math, understand how these engines work, and then use it as a tool, right? But the value that we add is going to be that human, like the ability to use the tool to plug into your thinking, plug into your creativity, right? I think that's the key. So for someone new, I don't know if you even want to bother learning coding. Some people might disagree. But, my team, one of them are here somewhere. David's here. I mean, David's figuring out that the AI could code better than him. So he prompts the AI to actually code for him in R or in Python. So, I mean, it's about how you connect the dots between what are the human needs and wants, and that's really the key to any business that we have, right? And then how do you leverage the tools?
And if I don't have any data, or I feel like I don't have any data, my business is not, we don't follow anything, how do I start? Is it important to do that? If I don't have enough, should I wait?
Okay, so I don't think that's true. Everybody here has an HR system, right? Okay, whether it's iSIMS, whether it's cloud, everyone has data. You start with something,
Okay.
right? If you don't have enough, right, then that's when you start to figure out, how can I collect them? And you have to collect them every day. Think about the cadence. Think about what is the minimum viable product that you need. And just say, okay, well, maybe we just collect ratings once a year. That's all we need, right? So that's possible. So there's always the base that you have, that everyone has systems on data. HR systems are always there. Any company will have an HR system or payroll system. You've got to pay people, right? So then you start to figure out what is missing.
Something to work with.
Yeah, but you don't just randomly pick what data you want. You go after the business problem first and then work backwards, right? For example, I'll give you a missing data piece that we have for the retail problem that we talked about. We found out that we have no way of connecting the employee to the store. So how are we going to know which store needs help, right? So we work backwards and we say, okay, well, employees have to clock in and clock out. Why don't we use a time system, timekeeping system to link the employee to the store? So we figured that out. And we didn't have that data before.
That's great.
All right.
Okay, so just before opening it to questions, let's sum it up. We have some takeaways. Follow the money. Don't limit yourself to that cubicle. AI won't win if you decide to think more, not just the data, but coming with some initial thoughts and takeaways for the company, right? Be more involved with the business.
Yes, get it. Understand the true business problems versus just trying to give what HR wants, right? But I'm saying that don't circumvent the HRBPs. The HRBPs are the most amazing people in this world. Everyone agrees, yay! But we need to partner with them. Partner with your finance people because that is where you get the business leaders to tie the headcount to the money. So show headcount and finances together, right? How many of you actually have dashboards or KPIs that link headcount and the exact dollar next to it? How many? Very few. So
Yeah.
you have not very far to go because you obviously have a finance partner. Maybe the first thing to do is in this year's roadmap, to link it together. It's super powerful when you have the headcount and the dollars next to each other. It's even more super powerful that when we started to layer spans and levels, and we see how much senior leaders make as opposed to up-and-coming high potentials, then you can see, how much we're really rewarding for the right layers in the organization, right? How much you're investing in your future talent. So when the leaders see the dollar and the headcount together, it tells a very different story. So start with that.
Okay, great. Any questions? We have someone with a mic going around. Just raise your hand. It was very clear.
All right, any questions? Yes. Yeah.
Here she comes.
So my name is Lisa. I work at Mars Discovery District, a charity downtown. My question was about something you mentioned at the very beginning of your talk around using attributes of either high performers or reasons for turnover and kind of cycling those back in to find a profile for talent. Do you find that, or have you seen that using those kind of lagging indicators for performance and turnover ever impact the diversity of the people that leaders start to look for? Like if one type of person is successful and they start to come through the model and you say, okay, look for these attributes, do you find it impacts the diversity of your employee base?
So you feel like it's maybe it's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah, and then you get less diversity coming through the model to test if they are successful or unsuccessful, like different attributes. Have you ever encountered that?
I think you are thinking adverse impact analysis or figuring out whether there is a pervasive pattern of how people tends to fall into certain decisions.
Yeah, I'm thinking if you have a specific attribute of a high performer and you say, okay, we want to hire for more of that type of person, do you find that if you go back and then only those, you kind of narrow the pool and you have less diverse attributes coming through?
It's so funny. For some reason, I thought of dog breeding when you think about that.
Yeah.
And so I want long ears, and so you breed for long ears, right?
But then you don't know if the short ears might be more successful in the future because you're kind of
good point. That's a
changing
really good
your
point.
funnel.
So I think it's probably our job to figure out if it has become, so the lagging indicators are a sign of whether we are going in one direction of less diversity. And I think if anything, the lagging indicators can tell us what we need to course correct. Yeah. Okay. And when you see that descriptively, yes, of course, you bring in some statistical studies to see if it is significant. And then you course correct. So lagging indicators are important as long as you have guardrails and you have guiding principles of what you need to happen, right? Whether you want to breed more of the long ears or whether you say, hey, the ears are getting longer and longer, we don't want that. We want spots and we want other kinds of attributes.
Yeah, okay. That's helpful,
Does
thank
that
you.
help? So
Yeah.
the lagging indicators are helpful because as long as you have guardrails, because you don't want to say, oh, this just affirms that long ears are good.
Yeah, focusing more on the things maybe that come through that aren't successful, and how do you add more diversity to see it come through?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And it helps that you are looking for that. That's really, you know, the science that you need to look for.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And yeah, we don't have time, sorry, but Mei Kim is still here. Thank you so much
Yeah, no
for
worries.
this insightful fireside.
I hope I didn't scare everyone like, I better go look for a new job today.
No, I think you gave some really great pointers.
All right, thank you.
you.